give the example of pulse biology here. So selectivity has contributed to the replication crisis in biomedicine because we judge research on how hot, how exciting the results are, rather than whether or not the approach is solid and for some fields, and whether or not the question is one that deserves to be answered. So pulse biology is moved to focus on the contribution that the research question makes to science, whether the research question addresses something that's important to the field, and also whether the approach that's outlined is appropriate. And so using kind of those three metrics, they've changed how they evaluate research. PLOS Bio has also launched a couple of new article types that help support this. They, like PLOS One, have the registered reports. They call them the pre-registered research articles. They also have discovery reports, which are shorter, and then update articles, which I mentioned briefly before, where you can go in and update a previous paper that was published in Bio. So overall, open science supports equity in publishing via these steps here that are on the slide. It supports these transparent processes with credit for authors, and very clearly delineated contributions that authors have made to the final article. Open science supports the use of preprints to share information in an early stage, and open peer review, so that reviewers are recognized for the contributions that they make, and people can see how the review has contributed to improving the final article. Open science allows access to multiple research outputs, like data and code, and protocols, reagents, and reporting checklists. These are all critical to supporting reproducibility and improving trust in published output. Open science also counters publication bias with, as I mentioned just previously, the pre-registration of research articles and then also pre-registration of clinical trials, which is really important. And also we publish journals that have inclusive criteria like PLOS One, and several of our other new launches are also based on that same model. So I've talked so far about the role that journal policies and initiatives have in promoting equitable open access publishing, but I also want to acknowledge the important function of journal leadership and the community that we build around the journal. These have really important roles in driving and sustaining equitable publishing practices. And I feel like this quote from Naomi Oreskes illustrates it really beautifully. She mentions that objectivity is likely to be maximized when there are recognized and robust avenues for criticism, such as peer review, when the community is open, non-defensive, and responsive to criticism, and when the community is sufficiently diverse that a broad range of views can be developed, heard, and appropriately considered. So I really want to push on this diversity bit here. So why is diversity important? Well, we know the journals aren't inclusive. And there's lots, there's demonstrated evidence about bias and lack of inclusivity at every single step in the composition of our editorial boards to review practices. And the Institute of Physics has just done a really wonderful set of studies into bias and peer review, where they've looked at the effect of masking on reviewers, either double masking or single masking, and how that actually affects the outcome during review. So improving diversity and equity at all levels of the journal, it's really important to address this. So researchers have always driven our mission forward, and in order for us to have a meaningful impact, we have to include the broadest range of voices possible. So the 5 journals that we launched in 2021 create new and diverse communities of practice, and they're really at the forefront of shaping how we address some of the most pressing issues that face our societies today. So here are the 5 journals that we launched in 2021, kind of based on some of the sustainable development goals. These journals, and we're working with our established journals as well, they ensure diversity and equity of representation at all levels, from the editors-in-chief, to the editorial boards, to the reviewers that we invite to review papers. And this practice then positions the journal to actively seek out research from underrepresented and historically excluded groups. Another key is improving diversity and equity at the authorship level. So this is a pretty striking map here that shows that kind of distorts the whole known world map based on the research output. You can see that there are a couple of countries here on this map that really dominate the research landscape. So what we aim to do is to work with impacted communities, as I mentioned, the historically excluded communities, underrepresented communities, to understand their barriers to access, and also then to co-create solutions with them. So we're not imposing a top-down solution, we're trying to understand, which is part of the reason why I'm at this meeting. So part of this work involves the models that I discussed previously, the capital global equity models. So these are models that work with the community to improve upon access. But I also want to give an example of how we work with communities to develop solutions to other barriers to access. And so one of these is our inclusivity and global research policy, which we announced in September 2021. And this is a policy that was designed to address helicopter neocolonial research, where researchers from another country come in, work with the local population, and leave publishing the research without including contributions from local researchers. And it also speaks to the tendency for science to be published in journals without appropriate consultation with local groups who would benefit from knowledge creation. So with this policy, we just aim to improve the transparency of the reporting of research. And it very specifically asks authors conducting the research that don't have local authors in the author list why not have been included. And that might be a tough question for some of the authors to be able to address. And really, really importantly, this policy was co-created with local research communities. So we sought feedback from diverse global perspectives in many, many, many different fields. And they provide really key feedback in shaping how we develop the policy, how we implement the policy, and the checks the journal run to make sure that the policy is being met. So I want to just finish here on, how do we build an equitable access publishing system? So we need new publishing models that decouple publishing activity from payment, that are equitable and that are transparently costed, so that people understand what the profit is, what is their money going to be. We need to recognize the intrinsic value of the intermediary outputs like data and code, preprints, review reports, and protocols. We need to develop publication criteria and outputs that focus on the research question and the quality of the execution rather than subjective assessments of results. We need to build diverse, inclusive, equitable communities around journals, and we need to partner with our journal community to understand and address their needs. That's my last slide. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to be representing eLife as the ambassador. So my name is Dini Roslin. I work as a social scientist and a public health specialist here in Rwanda. I am also an eLife ambassador, and that's why I'm here today. I'm also the co-founder of African Community for Systematic Implementation. So as eLife, our aim is to promote transparency, fairness in science. And so eLife for the past 10 years has been publishing like other journals such as yours. Today we have a model since the beginning of this year, 2023, where we only publish articles that have been pre-printed. So our goal is to have a consultative model where the reviewer and the